Good morning. Yeah, welcome to this part 3 on data validation in Excel. Um, I want to go through a little summary of where we stopped by last time in part 2. Um, before summarizing what we learned in the last part, let me show you a little how you can access the dataset I have shared with you previously. You come here. I use to access my channel. I use youtube.com slash at Virasa Fabrice. As you see, this directs you to my to the um, to the platform of my channel, and here I want to show you. This is the last part on data validation, which is part 2. When I want to access the dataset I shared with you, you can find it here. You see, I directed those who missed the previous part. They can find the part 1. The previous part of part 2 was part 1. I also linked you where to find the dataset. This dataset, if you want to download it, it is hosted on GitHub. GitHub is a page where I use to store my code, the data sets I have been using. To download the dataset, after heading to my GitHub page, you see the link is ended by teaching excellence. You need to click here to view raw. If you click to view raw, as you see, the dataset has been downloaded, and this download I can open it directly from the download, um, and it is somehow blocked for prevention to get virus from downloads. Um, then after downloading our dataset, it is where I'm going to start from. Previously in the part 2, we stopped where I showed you how to use named ranges to in data validation. This is where we stopped, where I showed you how named ranges can be used in data validation. In this, I gave you a kind of hook telling you these named ranges are not sufficient. There is another way. Named ranges are a kind of manual. There is another way to make it kind of automatic. In case where if I update a list in data validation, it automatically get viewed in the list, in the column, in the dataset where I am dealing with data validation. Let me show you how to do it. Um, we started by creating this list. um, I am going to just show you what if I want this list. If my list changes here, I need also the list in the data template, in my dataset template, to change as well. The options, these options, as you see here, we have gender, a list of gender. I want this list. If I add something here, it should be added to this list. How do I do it? Let me first do as this. I am going to turn this into a table. To turn this into a table, I come here to insert tab, then click on table. Then my table has headers. After changing this into a table, I need to name uh, to to name this as let me see if this has been added to name the ranges. It is not. um, I am going to name this range of mine as gender. If I click OK, let me come to the name manager to find if there is any gender here. Yes, you can find it. Yes, yes, it is Gore and Gabo. This is Kinyarwanda terminologies. I am going to come and show you what is existent. Let me first you see we have two options for this gender. I want to make a little change for Gore here slash woman for those who use English. Then Gabo, like for man. I am coming here to check if this can be reflected. As you see, for a little change to the existing options is directly reflected in the in the list of validation. You see, if I click here, anything I added to existing options, it's not a new options, it's existing option. Let me check if I add a new options here, like umuhungu to mean a boy. Let me check if this can be added as well. I'm doing this live to check with you if these things can work by yourself. You see, the umuhungu I add here has now been added to it. If also I use a mukobwa, it's a Kinyarwanda term to mention a girl. Let me check here. Is it? Do we have a? Let me click on umuhungu. Let me click on the let me click on umukobwa. You see, anything I am adding here, it is changing automatically. I don't need to go back and readjust my data validation. As you saw previously, we used to come here. I don't need to go back there. As you see, we have N5 up to N8. But if I add something here, let me show you. This is N8. I want to add a nonsense word here, like a kid. It is on N9. N9, you know it by looking here. N9. Then if I click OK, I come here to check if my data validation list has changed. You see, let me check. It is now from N5 to N9. As you see, my list of data validation, it is updating automatically. To make this possible, as you saw, I turned my list of inputs for data validation into a table. Then I named that list in a new name. Then that list should be updating itself as we add new inputs. Let me show you when I feel like there is a notion which should not be included as in options of data validation. If I click here, delete, delete, let me use keyboard. Keyboard, I use this keyboard, this delete here, this delete here. If I delete this, uh, and I come back to check what has changed here, let me check. You see the name kid has disappeared, but its space has been maintained. What does that mean? uh, if you delete without removing the space of that name, the data validation will consider that as an empty space without removing the whole option, but keeping the spaces that was occupied by that name. To remove the whole thing, you need to go bottom right here and click on this icon. You see this icon? Let me zoom in. I don't know if you can see it properly. We have a little you see a little icon here in blue. I need to drag it to remove the deleted option. If I come back here, we should be seeing that empty space to be removed. So in case you remove your options, you don't use delete only. You need to delete the whole cell. You need to remove the whole cell, uh, to avoid that in your list of data validation there should be empty spaces. Let me show you the impact. If you delete this umhug in between options, if I come back here, I will see weird things like empty spaces between options. This is not recommended. I can address this by moving this umukobwa. I use control cut. Let me show you on keyboard how to cut. I use control X. Control X. Control X is used to cut. It is used to cut. Instead of copying, I cut. Then I move that umukobwa. I come back here to take this up. This icon. Sorry. I want to move this icon up there. As you see, it has shifted upward. Another options to do it. Another option to do it. I can move this list down the table. Let me show you how to do it. Another option to do it, I can put it here while there is no other thing either on right or left. I don't have anything here right and left. If I want to delete this thing and to see it reflected in my list of to see it in my list of data validation reflected directly, I can come here, select the whole line, the whole row of where I want to delete. I'm going to delete this umukobwa and remove the whole space, that empty space that has been left behind. I want to remove the whole thing without leaving an empty space. I click on this row where umukobwa or girl is put. I use right click, then delete. If I use delete, you see the other icon has already shifted upward. If I come here to see if it has took effect, I see it has already changed. You see, to make your data validation list to be automatic, you need to put it into a table. To put it into a table, I make it in that way. Let me show you. If I wanted this umuhungu or a boy, I have already included it here, umuhungu or a boy. Let me see what's I put it in a long column, umuhungu or a boy. And I at the end has already deleted this row. Data validation, as we saw previously in part 2 of this tutorial, will not remove these values you have put in your table before changing your list of data validation options. It will keep them as they are, but we will be understanding that they are invalid data within that table. How to check your data that are valid or not valid? It is where it comes another option. You come here to data tab as usual. You come to this group of data tools. You click on this data validation. Instead of clicking inside this data validation, I click on this down arrow. I don't know if it's zoomed. The data this ribbon is not moving up, but you click on this data validation, the down arrow. You see we have three options: data validation, cycle invalid data, clear validation cycle. If I click on cycle invalid data, you see where magic occur. Your data validation, all the data that are not falling in the provided data validation list are encircled with red cycles. What does that mean? It means that everything we see encircled in red is not validated. It's kind of invalid data. Why am I seeing this value which I think or I consider to be valid? Why is this gore, this gabo being considered as invalid data? This is when I changed my options and added another option. This Excel will automatically consider the previous input data to become invalid, because I have updated my list of data validation from gore. It used to be gore. Then I changed it into gore/woman to make someone who understands English what I'm talking about. This is a Jitsina gender. I changed from this one. I changed from this one to this one. So all the existing data there, Excel has considered them to be invalid because my thing has changed. If I turn back my options, let's see what happens. If I turn back my options and delete that woman and say okay, let's see. Cycling invalid data does not update automatically. I need to first use save as control S, then I come back here to cycle invalid data. You see, if I cycle invalid data, this gore used to be cycled. It used to be in a red cycle, but for this turn it has not been cycled. This is because I have updated here. Let me update as well here. I remove this man. I know it is causing problems. then I save, then I come back to cycle invalid data. You see, all these gabos have been removed from invalid data. um this tool of cycling invalid data is should be a good friend of yours, because it helps you to identify all the invalid data, or the data that are not following the existing data validation within a specific column. You should consider whenever you are going to deal with your data set that has been filled by other users, which is not you, or yourself can make a mistake. You don't know. Mistakes are humanly. I can make a mistake, you can make a mistake. To make sure that my data are precise and relevant to what I am intending to use it, I need to to be cross-checking that everything is okay. This is how we use data cycling to excuse me. This is how we use data cycling to make sure that our data is valid in every column. I need to go ahead and make another list. I'm going to make another list from this table. I'm going to check if what we have done to this gender column is working to the list of other columns. We have a column here, umurenge, which says sector, I think, in English sector, in singular. This has we don't this sector, we used a wrong data validation. I need to change this. How do I change it? Let me first put this Team Sagara. It is a kind of sector. It's an example of sector in Nyarugenge district. I put it at the end to make sure if I select the whole column, it's easy for me. Then I select the whole column. I come back here to change my data validation column. I click this table. I click this table. My table to be used will be here. My table will be here. I want to use this district. This district. This whole. What I'm going to show you is this. If I have my list of data validation as this one, we made a previous a list of we made a previous table in the previous part of data validation. We made this table of province or city of Kigali, districts, sectors, cells, and villages. This is a table. If you want to know the name of this table, you can come here and see the design. The table is called table 2. I can rename it to be let me call it all entities, or underscore entities, or entities, just simple as that. This is my table. I want to use a part of this table in that kind of automating my process. I want to come here to make my process to be automatic. Let me put like a COK here to make easy my selection process. I want to select this whole column and come back to data. I click here to change the data validation here. I use my table. My table is named as entities. No, sorry, it's not entity, it's all district, all entities. Then I use this I use these uh, two brackets, I don't know if on keyboard you can find it. Keyboard, let me see if I can find the that bracket. This one and this one, opening bracket, and this one. I'm not a native of English. I don't understand how we call it. It's a square bracket, I think. I think it's a square bracket. Then I use uh, double quotes. I use my header, column header. I'm going to be using its province stroke COK. Province, I'm going to write as it is, just within quotes, province slash COK, like this. Then if I say OK, it's giving me an error. This error is due to that if you want to use a part of a table and that part is not in named ranges, you need to use additional function known as indirect. Indirect, it's a function I will be teaching you in future. Indirect, it's a function that helps Excel understand a new concept or a new input through like a transfer. I don't know technical terminology I can use. Indirect helps you to I'm going to explain in a short while. Let me use it first and show you how it can help you. I use indirect in bracket. Let me check what's wrong with my indirect. Is it all in the brackets? Let me check. I'm going to use this. Sorry. Okay, then I'll move these double quotes. When you are working with technology, you need to have a kind of patience. Sometimes you feel you are going to do something like this, and when you are in practice, it is going to fail sometimes. You will never be, you don't need to quit directly. You need to have a kind of patience, and you go and search. If you do some research, you will find where you are committing errors. uh, as you see, my table is there, but my table is including some some empty spaces. The whole options are there, but my options are also including these empty spaces. You see, I have a list here of a table, and this table, and this table, and this table. But at the end of my table, the table has empty spaces. These spaces is because I have put a list of different dimensions into the same table. This is what I wanted to teach you. A table can be used in data validation in an automatic way, but you should be making sure that within your table all the values are of the same dimensions. You see, I have a province. We have province including the city of Kigali. We have 5, but for districts we have 30, which is greater than this number of province. So to be able to use a technical or a good data validation list, you need to separate this list to form a separate table itself from the table I have here. If you put a list of province slash COK in the same table with districts, sectors, and cell, we know province will be having few options. In that case, if I add it in my data validation, it will have kind of empty spaces, and these empty spaces Excel will be considering them as other options, which is wrong. This is misleading your users. These are all options, but they are empty. You should be considering, when you create a table, you don't need to put a whole bunch of lists without the same dimensions in the same table. You should consider, rather use a list, the list you are sure have the same dimensions should be can be put into the same table, but you cannot put a list of different tables, different dimensions into the same table. But if I check if this table is automatic, I want to add Virasa here. I know Virasa is not a name of a province, but I want to check if it will be reflected in my options here. Let me come back here, come up here. You see Virasa automatically is in there. As you see, to automate my data validation list, I can do in two options. The first is to name, to create a table, and I name the options of that table. I name them. Then I use the combination of table and named ranges. That is the first option, which we saw on this gender part. This gender part, let me show you this gender part, where I put it. Let me see. I put it down where here. I changed this table, this list into a table. You see, if to know if this is a table, if you click out of a table, there is if you click in a table, there is an added tab. There is an added tab up. It says table tools. This table tools, it only occurs when you click inside a table. A table you create, not a range, a common range. If I click outside, you can look down here. If I shift outside of a table, you see, let me show you, it is going to disappear. It disappear because I have moved out of the table. If I click inside the table, there is another tab that appears as design. Excel gives you an option to design your table. So this table should be considered a lot if you want to automate your process of data wrangling or analysis or entry within Excel. This table should be handy to you, should be friend of yours when you are dealing with data in Excel. Let me give you another example. As we saw, never put lists of data validation of different dimensions in the same table. Never do that if you want to have good results of your data entry and data processing. I am going to do this on the list of districts. I'm going to copy this and put it in a separate yes, I paste it here. As you see, let me select the whole list. It's 30 districts. That is what I want. If I click, though this list has colors similar to a table, but this is not a table. Why? Because what shows me a table, if I click in a table, there should appear another tab for table design. So this is not a table. This is not yet a table. To change it into a table, I come to this insert tab. I click on table. If I click on table and my this table has my table head has head as ticked. I then click on OK. If I click outside of a table, design tab has disappeared, but if I click inside the table, you see design tab here. Yeah, that's how tables work. I want to include this table within this akarere slash districts. um you see, let me show you the current data validation within the list. It has failed, it has crashed. Why it has crashed? Because if you do a change to your list, if you make kind of change or rename something within your list, like renaming changing from common list to a table, or you have shifted something, the link will fade. The link will, you see, I have an error of hash ref. This means reference, because sometimes this ref, you get this ref error when you have changed your table, where Excel used to look for your table, it is no longer there. If it is no longer there, Excel will give you a reference error. I am going to update that. I come back, I delete this. I need to come to this entity. I know where my table is. I select the whole table. But to select the whole table is not sufficient. I need to use the whole bunch of functions to to make sure Excel understand what I want to tell it. I use indirect. Then after using indirect, I use um, brackets. I use bracket, then use I use this table. Let me make sure the name of my table is it's table 4. Let me call it district. There is already a name with that district. Let me use district new. After using district new, I come back to to update my data validation. My data validation, this column. I come to this data validation. I change this to be I'm going to use indirect function. When you are dealing with tables, list of tables, you use indirect. Then I use double quotes. I use my table. It's district new. I think it's like this. Then square brackets. I use, what is that I put there? Let me use, is it table 4? I need to check. Let me see if this works properly. If it fails, I need to go back and check. Okay, it evaluates to an error. It does not work. Okay, let me go and check my whole bunch. Okay, this is should be district new. Let me do it to be able to select my what, like let me use Nyajenje. Okay, it is failing. I see. I'm wanting to change this data validation. Let me see if I can use district new. I want to see if it works. Do you want to continue? What's the issue? As I told you, you should be having a kind of patience. I don't know where I'm committing error. Let me come and cheat on this previous column. What is my issue? What is my issue? Yeah, I get it. uh, the name the name I should be putting here should be this one, districts is the name I should be putting there. Let me select the whole column. I use data, then this new should not be there. Yes, that is okay. As you see, if you want to use a table, I have turned my table into a table. Then I named my table. The name of a table can be viewed here. You go to the, while clicking in a table, you go to the design, then you see the table name. This is my table name. But if you want to use these lists within your data validation, you need to use this title, not this title. I use indirect function. I use indirect function like this. I go here. I use indirect brackets. Districts new. Districts new is the table name. Should start with districts new. Then square bracket. I use districts. This districts stand for this table header. It's not a table name. It's a table header. In this case, Excel does not consider a case. It is not, in this case, Excel is not case sensitive. As you see, my table header starts by D capital. The first letter is capital, but I used a small letter. I can also change it. Excel does not consider a case sensitive. That is why when I use Gabo and Gabo like this, all these sorts of uh, cases, Excel can understand. I can also use Ga like Gabo like this. Excel will interpret as the same name. The issue Excel interpret as a different name is like adding another name like Gore and use like E. This is another name. You see, Excel is not case sensitive. If I say case sensitive, most of programming languages are case sensitive. If I say Gore, another one say Gore, most of programming languages will consider these names to be different. You see, I will be teaching you about one programming language which is known as ARA programming. If you do not specify that your your program should consider your names to be in case insensitive, your programming language will stay considering these names to be different. But for Excel, for case of Excel, you will not see Excel considering case sensitive as an issue. It will consider this one as this one as equivalent to this one. So Excel is not case sensitive. uh, let me help you to understand what we have talked in this tutorial. We have saw how to do data validation in an automatic way. How we do it? We change our common range list into a table. How do we do it? We select our range, then we come the whole range, we come to insert, then we click on a table. This table is not active because my list is already in a table. After changing our list of our data validation list, we change the first option is to name these these options, these available options. If we name these available options, we come and update our data validation to look like this. If we name our data our data validation options, when we change something like adding Fabrice here, it should change automatically. Fabrice is already there. If I add Birasa here, it should change automatically. Birasa is already up here. If I want to remove something from my table, I delete it, they also disappear from my table. You see, everything is updating automatically. If I want to make sure that all the data within my table are valid, I come here and cycle invalid data. As you see, invalid data are umukobwa, umuhungu, and Fabrice. This invalid data needs to be updated. I can come here, Siwoke. I know Siwoke stands for the city of Kigali. I come here, I click on Umuji wa Kigali. Umuji wa Kigali is summarized, is abbreviated as Siwoke. I change it. If I find that something here is wrong, I either change, I can change umukobwa. I know it's women, it stand for like gore or women. I can change it to gore. I change this to gabo. I change this nonsense, I delete it. Fabrice does not indicate any gender. This umhungu change for gabo. I can, to make for those English user to understand what I am, what is written here, I use for women. For women, gabo it's for men. For men. Then so as I told you, cycling does not update automatically. I need to save. Control S. I use Control S, or you can come here. You can come here and click here. This is save. You see, it's Control S for shortcut. I come back here and use this cycle invalid data because I have updated these options to add English word or English representative word. This has become invalid. Anything you change to your options will make the available option to be invalid. To update them, you can do like this: gore women. Then you can use gabo like this. They are all available. You see, everything like this. If I save and come back here, I come back here to cycle invalid data. I remain with this invalid data. This is how I update my table. This is how I update and change invalid data into valid data. As you see, data validation is a good tool. It can be used in different scenarios. You need to be sure how to use it. Another way to automate your data validation, this is and the third option, it is not about changing the data validation options. It's about reflecting the data validation within your table to update as I add new row. How do I do it? Let me first show you the before doing it. I'm going to move back this table here. I move it here. Let me move it here. I am going to show you another importance of using a table. Why do we use table? Let me delete everything around this list. I'm deleting it. I come back here. You see, if I happen to to have another option. Let's say my table here has been completed. I have Virasa here, Lemi, Virasa here. I have Fabrice here, and I don't have any available. Let's assume I don't have any available space here within my table, and I want to add another option. I need to put like let me say no sense word here. I don't know, uh, uh, something like this. I want to add the values related to this Twitter. Umubare w'abana. Let's assume Twitter is someone. Let me use 5. For gender of it, let me say it's male. Uh, for this amashuri yarangije, no education. Let me say no education. For date, let's assume it was born in 2009. Let me find another mudugudu. Let me say California. Let me copy this and paste it here. Yes, here. Okay. What I want to show you is this. If I come back here and in cycle invalid data, there is no invalid data. Yet I know this is invalid data. Why does my data validation not show me this invalid data? Why? Because when you are dealing with common length, this dataset, my dataset, is in a common range. If I come here in insert, my table you see this table is active. If you select a table and you see this table is active, be sure that the selected range is not a table, because we saw that when you click inside the table and that is a common range, there will not appear additional design tab. Why do we need to put our dataset into a table? That is where importance of data comes around. If I add additional, when I added the additional input on my list, it did not consider the available data validation within this table, because this is not yet a part of my table. If I want this to be a part of my table, I need to come and insert a table and say my table has headers. To make this table reflect all the available options, you need to come and change this K to K2021. Then if I say OK, this is a table. But what is the issue behind? The issue behind your table, this was put into a table before excuse me, this was put into a table before this turns into a table. I need to come and delete this. Let me delete this, and my table is there. Let me show you the impact of keeping your data into a table. If your data is kept into a table, your dataset is a kind of updating. When you add another thing, let me re-put Twitter here. Twitter, umubare w'abana, let me say 18. You see, I have not added data validation on this line 21 line, but my table is giving me restrictions. I am adding a value that is restricted because I know this this had a data validation restriction that I should not put a value not less than 0 and not more than 10, and yet I'm use a number of baby, it's number of baby here. Number of baby should not go beyond 10. Then I am using 19 to make sure I use the correct number. I use 10. For gender, let me say it's male. This table will not allow me to put invalid data, because whenever you write next to a table, that value will be turned into a table. It will be turned as part. It will be considered as part of the table. The table will sense it and consider it to be part of the same table. If it considers it as a part of the table, all the available formatting or conditional formatting or data validations, I don't know, everything should that additional input should be following available restrictions for the whole table. Let me use like women. Women, there is no restriction, but if I use 11 kid, there is a restriction. Why? Because a table has sensed this woman as a new input to the table, and the table has to check that whatever you enter in this table should abide um, should abide with existing restrictions. This is the importance of keeping your data into a table. You don't need you don't It will prevent you to commit some errors. It will prevent you to commit some errors, while when your table are within common ranges. You need to update all the data validation manually. You need to change everything. You need to come. If I add something here, I need to come and change the data validation, or I can copy data validation from here and paste here, data validation from here and paste here, data validation from here and paste here. You see, it's a tedious work. It's like you are repeating your work. Rather, you need to you need to turn your data set into a table, and everything will be updating automatically. Let me cross by here and say data validation is a good tool. Many of us might not be aware of how to use it, and how to keep it automatic, and how to benefit to its capabilities. Make sure you go through these videos and make sure you understand how data validation are working. In the last part of these tutorials about data validation, I will consolidate everything we have learned, and make you a recommendation on how those data validation will be can be used to speed up your work. But so far, I thank you for following along with my tutorial, and consider to subscribe to this channel to have future videos like this. I will be teaching you about data, I'll be teaching you about technologies, and I'm planning to make future videos on existing technologies, artificial technologies that are emerging, and how they can help you in your day-to-day work. Thank you, and may God bless you. See you in the next tutorial.